This will conclude tonight's program of the Opportunity Zone Meetup. Tonight our topic is raising money, and in this part 4 of tonight's program we're going to be talking about campaign staging. So a lot of people think of raising funding as an event. Somebody hands a check, somebody gives back a stock certificate, we're all done. But actually a capital campaign is all the steps leading up to the actual making of the request for funding and all the support that goes on during the funding process. And it's actually more akin to putting on a Broadway play. You have to go out and recruit certain people. You're going to have to design the sets. You're going to have to put people on stage and rehearse what they're going to do. You hopefully get everybody to walk through everything, and then at the same time while you're doing all this practicing, you're out trying to figure out who should be in the seats in the audience. You're out promoting this to people, and you're out selling tickets so that everything comes together as a single type of event, but it actually occurred over a long period of time. And done correctly, the money comes in quickly, effectively, you hit your goals, and you move on. Done ineffectively, it drags out. You spend a lot more time on it than you can afford, and the net result is too often those also fail. So we're going to talk about a number of the key elements on that as they relate to opportunity zones in this part 4. So one of the first things that comes up is that raising money into an opportunity zone fund is in all likelihood going to be a sale of a security. It's going to be subject to federal and state laws involving how these things are sold, what can be said, who they can be sold to. And so again, in the planning of your campaign, you're going to be asking yourself, who is my investor candidate? Because I want to make sure that my pitch is correct and my structure is correct. I'm going to be pointing it to them. But at the same time, the laws may restrict how and where I can go raise that money and who I can talk to. So as an example right now, again, using the Sugar Beet project as an example, we're going to do what's called a federal 506C offering. This is a public accredited investor only style offering, meaning that under the new laws that were passed with the Jobs Act of 2012, what we're going to see is if you're selling only to accredited investors, people who have a set net worth or income, we're allowed to now publicize or advertise the fact that we're looking for money. It used to be a classical private offering, had to be limited to people you knew within your network, and you were not allowed to talk to people you didn't know without going through a long registration process. They've now determined that that law was too restrictive. We're now going to be selling to people who have enough net worth to either afford talent to advise them, or they can afford to lose money from that investment, and so it's considered okay. If I did an old style, now called a 506B offering, I could raise money from non-accredited investors, but I'd be limited to only 35 non-accredited investors, and I could not publicize it. I would be limited to my personal networks and those people I knew. And depending upon your project, you may say that works fine. I have enough people in my network. I want to include some non-accredited people in my offering. I'm going to take path A or path B. You still also have crowdfunding. Both state law and federal law provide for raising money from both accredited and non-accredited investors. But you have to go through a registration process. Now, some of these registration processes for the smaller dollar raises are relatively simple, more of a notice filing type of a raise. In other cases, it requires the approval of a government agency. Even though it's simpler, quicker, faster than it used to be, it still takes time, money, and effort to get that particular approval. So you need to know who your target audience is, and that may impact what kind of security that you may have to comply with as far as the government laws go. You need to communicate. I know a lot of people are out raising money and nobody knows they exist. They don't know that their offering's there. I've had some people complain to me that they have an Opportunity Zone project and they cannot find an investor anywhere. And they've tried to use the state site for posting things off and on. They've tried to do local media things, and you would think from the way they describe it that somebody would have shown up who was looking for them. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to raise money into an Opportunity Zone fund or into a business from a fund, the burden's on you to find them and to educate them and help them qualify you as quickly and conveniently as possible, because the street lamp approach is really, what it is. People are not going to hunt you down and throw money at you just because you have an Opportunity Zone project. Even if they're employed and engaged and that is their business, is to deploy money, they have a huge range of choices in which they can make that investment that meet their criteria, and you may not compare well with other people in your own group, even though you're a very viable deal. And so you have to compete for the money. You have to do it effectively and efficiently because you don't have all the time in the world. So you have to create your story. You have to put it where it can be seen. You have to make sure that people are helping you share that story. So earlier I mentioned all the stakeholders in your group all stand to benefit from the success of your project, and you should know them, engage them, and have them help tell your story to everybody they know. So you're getting into a form of network management or crowd control where you're saying, I need a certain number of people who are qualified, I need a certain percentage of those to invest, and the more people I talk to, the higher my probability, as long as I'm talking to the right people, and those people are talking to people they know. Now, one of the caveats of raising money is people don't invest in people they don't know. And so if you come to someone with a really good deal, the likelihood is they're going to wait for a period of time to do due diligence and verify who you are and get comfortable with you. And that may take too much time for you to get through that comfort level. This is why a lot of the old fundraising was always by network or through broker dealers who were paid networkers to bring those investors to the table. They weren't investing so much in you as they were in the broker dealer with whom they had a prior relationship with. So there's lots of things that go into this in the campaign staging. Again, while you're putting everything together, build your networks, get your communications clear, make sure they're doing the job you want them to do, and that they will ultimately end up in front of the eyes of a person who is a qualified investor for your campaign. The pitch. You've got to stand up in front of everybody and make a pitch. It may be a one-on-one coffee. It may be in front of a large group. We've had a couple discussions about putting on some pitch fairs, which I do differently because the goal isn't for one person to walk out of the room with a trophy. The goal is for everybody to walk out of the room with a trophy in the form of a check or an investment. So we do it more like a speed dating rather than a competition. But you've got to be able to tell that story effectively. And you should have a team of people almost every occasion on your project. The best spokesperson, let them talk. We had some discussions yesterday with a group where the guy who is probably the most knowledgeable, most eloquent, was older than me. And we did not think that he would be attractive to anyone under the age of 40. And we were trying to break the news to him that he was going to need to put somebody on his team as a spokesperson, woman or man, or both, that would be better able to communicate a story that would be more attractive. Then we have the campaign team. Running a campaign, back to the analogy, the metaphor of a stage play, there's all kinds of positions. There's the people who are on the stage, there's the people who sell the tickets, there's the people who do the sets, there's the people who wrote the play to begin with. That comprises a team, a whole team gets the job done. You need to know that you have a complete team. You want everybody on the team to understand their role and responsibility. If they're entering stage left in Act 2 and saying the following lines, they need to know that. You want them to deliver those lines, the pitch eloquently when they do, and you want to put a time budget on it. too many capital campaigns have an unlimited duration. We'll raise money until we get the money or our company dies, which is kind of the offset to that. So go through the planning process, create a plan, add it to your business plan as an important chapter, and have all your team figured out and responsible, know what they're responsible for. So in the Sugar Beet district, we're using a tiered campaign. We actually are going to set up 3 types of pitches, one for each of the major types or sources of Opportunity Zone money. We're going to be talking, I can see I have a spelling error, apparently this is a late slide added, that what we're going to do is we're going to pitch to Oz funds. We're going to create our own Oz fund, but for the other funds we're going to try to do a syndication. So if we can raise part of the money through this group of wealth individuals or this group over here, at the same time, we're open to have another Oz fund that's already in existence come in and match our money or even put up the majority of the money. And the documents, again, have to allow for that, because if you're trying to raise $8.5 million and you say you're not going to deploy until you raise the 8.5, and it turns out you took 4.5 from somebody else, you didn't do that within your fund, so your documents are out of sync. So you have to allow for these variables or these fallbacks or options. We're going to do packages based upon motivation. We're going to take the people who are stakeholders, who are also investor candidates, and we're going to prioritize those on, as I call it, who loves me more than I love myself, who needs me so badly in order to fulfill their mission that they have to give me the money because they can't get done what they want to do without me being as successful as well. And then we've got to go through all the classical identification qualification, because we're going to do a 506c offering. They have to be accredited investors, and that requires independent verification validation of accreditation status. At the same time, it has to be a capital gains rollover. So in our investment documents, we have had the people not only state in an affirmative as a warranty that they are an accredited investor and that it is a capital gains rollover, we've had them put in the date by which they have to invest. So we have more data to demonstrate that we collected this and verified that everybody's in place. So these are all things that go into the mechanics, the practical management of a campaign, but it's the good management of a campaign, the good design of a campaign, and then the right deal structure says I talk to the right people, the right deal, I manage my campaign well, I've done the best I can, I've improved my odds as much as I can that I'll be successful in my capital campaign. In this case, we have some funding documents which are in draft, so they will not be immediately available for distribution, but hopefully we'll have more in a short period of time. Quite frankly, we are currently trying to lock down some properties, and we may get the first one under contract Monday, but until we have them under contract, we still have a floating number on what our raise may be. But we're already collecting names. We're already looking for people who match up. We're trying to figure out who we match up best with and building our portfolio of who to talk to.